Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to have Dr. Nicoletta Tessler, Divisional Vice President for Behavioral Health at UHS, to talk with us about patient-centered innovation driven from the outside in. Dr. Tessler, thanks so much for being here. Can you give our audience a high level of UHS and your hospitals and clinics?
Absolutely. So UHS is a very special company, and it's a Fortune 500 company. We've seen a lot of achievement and success. In 2020, we were actually named once again the world's admired companies. And in Forbes' inaugural ranking of the 500 public companies, we ranked at 275. And in the Fortune list, we actually ranked 281. So in terms of employees, UHS takes care of 90,000 employees. And through its subsidiaries, we have 26 acute care hospitals, 328 behavioral health hospitals, 42 outpatient offerings, and then ambulatory care access points, an insurance offering, a physician network, and so on and so forth. And in terms of our operating, we are in 37 states, which includes DC and Puerto Rico, as well as in the UK.
Wow, that's a lot of behavioral health services to manage. Tell us, how has COVID-19 impacted your behavioral health services?
As you can imagine, it's been quite impactful, and we've been so highly focused, honestly, on the health and safety of both the employees and the patients. That high quality of care has been incredible and so needed at this time. As you can imagine, people with mental health struggles have been fearful about coming to the community during this precarious time. And as a result, we've seen some volume changes in some of our facilities. But as you can imagine, COVID issues have exacerbated the struggles. For example, job loss, increased anxiety, things like that. And so experts are actually warning of a second wave of medical crisis that they're calling the behavioral health surge. And so UHS is preparing for that swell. Research is actually projecting that 75,000 individuals will die of despair as a result of COVID. And I mean suicide or addiction, and that's a huge number. And so what we're trying to do is ensure we're prepped and ready for the massive pent-up demand that we feel is going to accompany this. Now, the other piece to this that I think has come into glaring focus for UHS is what mental health care is. And it's more than the absence of mental illness. So it's more than just having a mental illness. It is about the sense of purpose and engagement and relationships and meaning. And so in addition to focusing on mental illness, we are focusing on mental health, the well-being being above and beyond the relief of suffering. And so what our intent is to build qualities for individuals and communities so that they're not just enduring or surviving, but we're also flourishing.
Wow, that's awesome. Really excited to hear that. And, outside of world-class behavioral health services, one way to really advance the type of care you're delivering is through innovation. So super excited about this topic. Would love to hear about your innovation hub and the work that you're doing around that at UHS.
So one of my favorite topics is standing up the innovation hub. So the whole idea of the Innovation Hub was to find a space where we had the audacity to do behavioral health care differently. And so our goals were threefold. One was to build the innovation capability. Two was to grow new business through innovation and new products at speed and urgency. And third was to attract entrepreneurship and talent. And what we've wanted to do is create a thriving ecosystem, an innovation ecosystem where we have a culture of innovation while also continuing to grow our legacy business. So balancing the culture of innovation with obviously the culture of constraint and discipline. And so we didn't want to be victims of anything. We wanted to be the initiators of innovative surprise. And so what we decided to do was create structure to change UHS's behavior even above and beyond the actual culture piece, which is why we started with the Innovation Hub. And so the whole idea was two buckets. One was the little I's, or the little innovations. Those are the incremental innovations that enhance daily operations. And then we look at big I's, or the big innovations, which are more of the disruptive innovations that change the behavioral health paradigm. That way, UHS equally can look at the old wave, which is playing the game better, as well as the next wave, which is changing the game. So the whole concept of the Innovation Hub has resulted in an innovation funnel that allows for high quality ideas consistently to flow. And we use a disruptive potential scorecard. We then have a governance structure that has both an innovation steering committee as well as an innovation executive committee to ensure we have the right vetting process in place. Of course, there's an attached corporate funding to all of this, as well as even an employee incentives program to ensure we're getting the best of breed within our company's ideas, in addition to our external stakeholders. And the end game is simple. We want to be a two-speed company model, right? So speed one, of course, core business. We want to optimize performance, efficiency, productivity. But speed two is being, basically making sure that we keep up with the landscape and that we keep pace and we're agile despite the digital disruption ahead.
Wow, that's remarkable. And exciting to hear that piece about getting employees engaged and really all stakeholders in the ecosystem. But of course, that can't be easy, and there are so many areas to impact in behavioral health. And so could you tell us a little bit more about the kinds of novel technologies and services that are especially a priority for UHS?
Absolutely. So we kind of compartmentalize innovation into three buckets. One being product innovation, obviously defined as technologies. The second, strategic innovation, new ways of doing business. And then third, and obviously the most important, clinical innovation, improving the care that is delivered. As you can imagine, telepsychiatry has been at the forefront of our minds, during COVID. And a couple of things, though, we really wanted to reach patients. We were concerned that not only could we not reach them, they couldn't reach us. So creating some sort of a digital front door was critical. And I'm a psychoanalytic person at heart. I was trained that way. And so relationships to me are everything. So one of the parts that we've really focused on is trying to figure out ways telepsychiatry can really preserve that therapy relationship and strengthen versus, the impersonal nature that some people have complained of. Now, in terms of some of the other betas that we're doing, I'm really inspired by one of our mental health technicians who actually created a shoe stay. And what that is this shoe for shoes in the inpatient setting where you can't use shoelaces. This is a little device part that you put on the shoes to allow for people to wear shoes. And it is simple but elegant and perfect. And it's our own mental health technician who has built this out. And that is just, it's been an incredible innovation for us. In addition to that, we are working with, for example, a cancer platform that had worked with pediatric cancer patients to help them reduce the anxiety during chemotherapy. That we thought, why wouldn't we look at behavioral health? And we designed an immersive healing environment for our restraints in our seclusion room so that we could actually empower patients, whether it was through smart TVs or virtual reality goggles, to actually develop their safe space and humanize behavioral health like we like to do. We're also working with a company around therapy intelligence platforms to ensure that our clinicians in real time are looking at their clinical product, not just relying on the patient-reported outcomes. And finally, another beta to share with you is around addiction medicine platform and ensuring, honestly, that we're matching to treatment. And I think that's an overlooked topic, as well as pre-treatment and understanding motivation and where people are at and matching them that way. so that we have precision behavioral health medicine really starting to flourish, at least.
Fabulous. That's fantastic. And, you know, you and I, we've talked at length about all that you've done to set this up, the infrastructure to really inspire innovation from the inside out, you know, as you said, employees within, helping them develop these concepts. And now, when it comes to the outside in, I know we've got a lot of startups in the audience who would love to learn more about how they could work with UHS on some of these novel concepts. So can you tell us a little bit about how can an early stage startup realistically partner with someone like a UHS?
Absolutely. So there's three ways that can be done. So first of all, the Innovation Hub. So we actually have a portal in the Innovation Hub. And what we've been doing with startups is pairing them with one of our CEOs so that they have a beta or a test bed at UHS where they can do like a 90-day pilot trial to determine viability. And then that way, those that have the most viable or promising solutions can actually scale across the company. We are also using global sourcing platforms. So they can pair up with innovation platforms and do deal flow sessions with us so that we can determine the synergies and see what type of partnerships are possible. And then finally, I am going to Harvard in October, and we are building this out from the outside in so that I can actually introduce an open innovation channel so that startups don't have to necessarily rely on pairing with a CEO or a sourcing company, but that we will have a direct linkage from the external or the outside in.
Awesome. That is super exciting. But, you know, it does take a certain amount of readiness on the startups and to really partner with something like a UHS. What stage should they be in before they approach you?
Funny you ask that because prior to COVID, I would have had a different answer. But during COVID, what we have done, honestly, is we have had many partnerships with MIT through the virtual hackathons. We have partnered with them with the US, the Africa, Hong Kong, and we're getting ready to do a second iteration. And during this time, literally, people have been building ideas within 48 hours. And being a clinical partner, we have learned how to rapidly prototype these solutions and scope out UHS sources and then develop an implementation pipeline so that we could look at publishing our resources and ensuring that the built-in issues or constraints that we had we worked through so that they could be deployed quickly. And one of my favorite parts about these hackathons actually have been that there's open sourcing agreements so that others can benefit from the prototypes we're building and testing out at UHS. So the answer, honestly, is any company, any stage at this point, which is great to say.
That's really exciting. One thing I just want to go back to real quick that you mentioned earlier is that you'd help partner startups with some of your CEOs. Can you talk more about that? And these are of hospitals? Just tell us a little bit more about that process.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier, we have 328 behavioral health facilities. So we have plenty of facilities that we actually can work together with the startup. So what we've done, honestly, is we've allowed startups to talk about what they're looking for and then match them or pair them with a facility that makes sense to see whether or not that actual solution pairs with that identified pain point of that facility. And also the facility's readiness so that we're really keeping an eye on solving the challenges that are most relevant, right, to that facility. And so once we do that, we allow for a 90-day pilot trial where they work with the CEOs and test and use UHS as that test bed that I described. And then what we can do is scale them across the company when we see the viability and the readiness to effectuate change across the company.
Amazing. And what a unique program. I mean, particularly for digital health startups, partnering with enterprise, it's just, and especially for first-time founders, navigating different relationships within large matrix organizations are really challenging. So this is exciting to hear about, and looking forward to learning more as it evolves. But you had mentioned earlier, speaking of challenges, what challenges do you see with UHS partnering with startups?
So the three challenges, or the areas I would recommend startups think about, one is behavioral health impact. We want to make sure that we fall in love with that problem and then find solutions to match it, and not the other way around. So making sure that they are relevant pain points for UHS is an important part of it. So behavioral health impact is critical. The second is innovation. It's really important that these innovations actually are usable for UHS. So think about it as, instead of it being a shiny toy, that it's a powerful tool. And so we need to make sure that that's aligned and that alignment is there. And then finally, the business model. That sustainable business model is critical for us. As you know, there's a lot of innovations, and we want to make sure there's an accompanying financial model that makes business sense.
Right, totally. And then on the flip side, I'd like to ask, where are the biggest opportunities that you hope not just UHS, but really the whole industry moves toward?
Yes, so I feel that this is a defining moment for behavioral health. We're dealing with a worldwide tragedy of COVID, and I think behavioral health can actually really show up and show what we're made of, and make that important change in the world. And the way we conceptualize it going forward, and the opportunity that resides, is a dual innovation model. So optimizing, the digital core of our business, and then reshaping the core, and then creating the new. So when you look at optimizing the core, you think about the innovation targets being things like process and product and workflow, digit-led customer experience. And then you go to reshape the core, and you think about operating the business model and operating model adaptation, scaling up digital business models, things like that. And then creating the new, right? New technologies, AI, right? Robotics, things like that. The new business models as well, and cost-effective validation. And so what would happen overall, our hope and the biggest opportunity, is that behavioral health is no longer the underdog in medical care, that we're on even playing and foot. And I think the way to say that, most importantly, is to also look at the positive health assets of people, our strengths, and what it takes to have meaningful lives. And so that we can show action, and we can lead to better well-being, to positive individuals, and to thriving communities. What's more inspiring than that?
That is so inspiring. It takes people like yourself who not only have the expertise but passion to transform this industry. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think this is a really pivotal time for us. So I'm excited to see how things evolve, and great also that UHS is so committed to this cause. Being such a large organization that UHS is, it's really important that you guys are a leader in this space, because you've got the resources, the experience, and really the responsibility to play a huge role. So really wonderful to hear your insights today. Thank you so much for sharing, and glad you could be with us.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here today.
Hi everyone, I'm Solomé Tibabu, your host for the Going Digital Behavioral Health Tech Summit. That was Dr. Nicoletta Tessler, Division Vice President for Behavioral Health at UHS. You can learn more about UHS at their virtual booth. We've got a ton of great content the rest of the day, Please stick around and learn from tons of different stakeholders about all of the innovative work they're doing in behavioral health tech. Thanks so much for joining us today.